They tried to erase her from history completely, not metaphorically, not through neglect. Someone, decades after she died, made a deliberate decision to chisel her name off monuments, destroy her statues, and remove every trace of her existence from Egyptian records. For over 3,000 years it worked. Historians didn't even know her name. This is the story of Hatshepsut, one of the most successful rulers in Egyptian history, and the woman ancient Egypt tried hardest to make everyone forget. To understand why she had to be erased, you first need to understand a rule that had held for nearly 1,500 years before she broke it. In ancient Egypt, only men could be pharaoh. The pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was considered a living god, the intermediary between the gods and the people of Egypt. Maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order of balance and truth, depended on a legitimate male ruler sitting on the throne. When Hatshepsut's husband, Pharaoh Thutmose II, died young, the next in line was his son, a boy, Thutmose III, far too young to rule. Hatshepsut, as the boy's stepmother, became regent, someone to hold the throne steady until he came of age. That was supposed to be temporary. Somewhere along the way, Hatshepsut decided temporary wasn't enough. Within a few years of becoming regent, she made a move almost no one before her had dared. She declared herself pharaoh, not regent, not queen. Pharaoh, the full title, the full authority, ruling alongside the young Thutmose III, but clearly in control. To make this claim believable to a deeply religious, tradition-bound society, she needed more than political power. She needed divine legitimacy, so she commissioned inscriptions claiming she was literally the daughter of the god Amun, that he had visited her mother in the form of her father, and she was destined to rule. It didn't stop there. Egyptian art and religious tradition required the pharaoh to be depicted a certain way. Broad-shouldered, muscular, wearing the ceremonial false beard that symbolized divine kingship. Hatshepsut began having herself carved and painted exactly this way. Not as a queen, as a king. Some later depictions even used male pronouns to refer to her. This wasn't vanity, it was survival. In a system with no framework for a female pharaoh, she built one, symbol by symbol, until the role fit her. Whatever you think about how she got there, what she did with the throne is undeniable. Hatshepsut's reign lasted around 22 years, one of the longest of any pharaoh, male or female, and by nearly every measure, it was a golden age. She launched one of the most ambitious trade expeditions in Egyptian history, a voyage to the land of Punt, a region likely along the coast of modern-day Somalia or Eritrea. Egyptian ships returned loaded with gold, ebony, ivory, exotic animals, and myrrh trees, actual living trees replanted in Egypt, something almost no expedition before had achieved. She commissioned massive building projects. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari is still considered one of the architectural masterpieces of ancient Egypt. A structure of terraces and columns built directly into the cliffs, so precisely aligned that it remains breathtaking more than 3,000 years later. Trade flourished. Egypt grew wealthier. Building projects across the kingdom brought prosperity to laborers and priests alike. By any objective measure, Hatshepsut wasn't just a legitimate ruler. She was one of Egypt's best, which makes what happened after her death even stranger. Hatshepsut died around 1458 BC, likely in her late 40s, possibly from illness. Some evidence suggests bone cancer. Thutmose III, the boy who'd waited decades in her shadow, finally took the throne fully as sole pharaoh. For years after her death, and nothing happened, no campaign against her memory. Life continued. Then, roughly 20 years after Hatshepsut's death, something changed. Thutmose III ordered a systematic campaign to erase her from history. Her statues were pulled down and smashed. Her name was chiseled out of temple walls and monument inscriptions wherever it appeared. Her image was replaced in some places with depictions of Thutmose I, II, and III, as if she had simply never existed in the royal lineage at all. Historians still debate why. Some believe it was about securing his own son's succession, eliminating any precedent for a woman or an irregular ruler to claim the throne again. Others believe it was less personal, more procedural, restoring the traditional male lineage in the official record, regardless of what actually happened. What's clear is that it worked, almost perfectly. Her name disappeared from king lists. Her reign for millennia was essentially invisible. It took nearly 3,000 years for anyone to notice something was missing. In the 1800s, as Egyptology emerged as a field, scholars began finding fragments that didn't fit the accepted timeline. Carvings using female pronouns for a supposedly male pharaoh, damaged cartouches, statues clearly depicting a woman in Pharaoh's regalia. For a while, this was dismissed as confusion or error. It wasn't until the early 1900s that scholars began piecing together who she really was. A legitimate, successful, long-reigning female pharaoh, deliberately written out of the record. Even then, the mystery wasn't fully solved. Her mummy was missing from her original tomb. For decades, no one knew where her remains actually were or if they'd survived at all. In 2007, using CT scans and DNA analysis, Egyptologists finally identified a mummy, one that had been sitting largely unexamined in a nearby tomb for over a century, as Hatshepsut herself. A single tooth from a box bearing her name matched a gap in the mummy's jaw exactly. After nearly 3,500 years, she had finally been found. Hatshepsut's story raises an uncomfortable question. If one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs could be almost completely erased from history for 3,000 years, who else has been? How many rulers, innovators, or events were deliberately written out of the record by whoever came next, and simply never rediscovered? We only know about Hatshepsut because enough physical evidence survived and because people were curious enough, centuries later, to notice the gaps. Not every erased figure gets that same chance. Somewhere, in records we haven't found, or beneath ruins we haven't excavated, there may be others. Entire reigns, entire lives still waiting to be pieced back together. We just haven't found them yet. Who do you think history erased that we still don't know about?